Hello, this is Mia. It's, what is it? Wednesday. I think it's about, well, it's 5 minutes after 2, and my kids get out of school. During the school year, usually they're in the daycare. They go to daycare. They're too old for daycare, but they don't have a ride home. And there's no bus that takes them to school or back, so it's kind of annoying to pay for daycare. I made a video last night and posted it, and I had been tired and too tired to go to bed, so I finally made it and got some sleep. I had to wake up early. I left my youngest child alone so he could actually sleep and gave him some chamomile so he actually slept, and got up. So now I'm procrastinating. I had some laundry to do and another errand to run, and I didn't feel like doing it. I actually was watching cartoons and resting, which is weird for me to do. It's not weird for me to watch cartoons because I have the children watching cartoons a lot. So, but I'm home by myself while I'm watching cartoons. But I like that show on Ion, that Rupert show. I really like that show. I always like that one. And so basically, like I said in the other videos, we have a converter box. We really only watch like shows that are from Canada or really old shows that maybe they might be part European, because we don't want to pay for our cable. At least I don't. The kids probably would love to pay for cable. But if you put the converter box on, you have like, what, 30, 50 channels that you don't have to pay for. You just have those annoying antenna that you have to set up and plug all this stuff in, which is worth not paying. And this signal, I mean, we have old TVs. It comes in pretty well. Pretty clear. Anyway, so I'm procrastinating picking up the kids and running some errands. At my shift last night, the interns that are level ahead of me, they're about to graduate, were like, what would you do? What do we do with this patient? Blah, blah. So I'm like, well, first we do this, then we do this, then we do this. And I would give him this as a treatment plan, and blah, blah. And if he wants to change this, then let him do A, B, and C. And so I'm telling him that, and of course the doctor comes up and asks them, what would you do? And it's like, everything I tell them, well, you do this, and you do this, and then they look at me, and I kind of repeated a little bit of something. I'm like, that's stupid. I was like, that was my idea, and that person just said it, and then I repeated it, and I'm like, I'll just shut up, because I looked stupid. Although I was the one who created the thing. And I'm not saying I did everything, but my mind is always ready and alert to, whether someone asks me or not, what the treatment plan would be. So today I get a letter saying that the resident doctor wants me to take this class because I don't have the skills to be in the clinic. And every single time I'm in the clinic, the patients pull me inside and tell me, either they tell me, oh my gosh, I thought you were the doctor, or, whoa, you did such a great job, you're going to do really well in your clinic. And the way that I am on the videos, I still don't talk about everything I'm thinking about. But I'm making the video, so I'm speaking. In the clinic, they only want to talk to the primary interns when the doctor comes in the room. So all I can really do after I've done my part, I've done my charting, or done the vitals, or physical exams, whatever, or even given the person I'm working with the treatment plans, or telling them, reminding them which supplements you can use, or what physical exams to do. The only thing that I can do when those two people are having a conversation is just watch them have a conversation. And all I do in my mind is saying, oh, in a couple weeks, I'll be able to actually speak up during this time of the visit. Because these visits are like minimum 45 minutes, if not an hour, 15 minutes per patient. And there's a lot of history taking, a lot of exams, and then treatment plans, and time spent with the doctor. So it's like, I feel like we always run out of time anyways. It's not like, oh, well, we don't have anyone, let's just keep you for 2.5 hours. It's not like that. So I'm always at the place like, oh, should I repeat the physical exams? Like yesterday, if I had repeated the physical exams that the other student did, I would have got the check-off, which is one of the check-offs people have a hard time getting. And I was like telling myself, well, I said it on yesterday's video, oh, I'm kicking myself because this other person's not going to be like, oh, come and step over here and just do this. But I'm thinking, oh, we got a late start because there was confusion. I didn't even know who was in charge on the shift last night. and both of the ladies were telling us two different things. So I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, in my mind, I'm just like, my mind is like how a robot, a computer would work, does not compute. It's like, okay, this person told me this. This is my problem with the shift in the person who was our supervisor last time. She always made rules opposite of the doctor's. So my mind's like, okay, this person wants me to do this, and this person wants me to do the exact opposite. So if I do this, this person is telling me I'm in trouble. But if I do this, this person's telling me I'm in trouble. That's what I really don't like. And then in your mind, you know the right thing to do. And I've gotten in trouble. During the lady who's trying to tell me I don't have skills, she's trying to tell me to do things to break the rules of her supervisor when her supervisor is not looking. So then she's like, oh, go do this. And then I'm doing it. And the guy's following me around thinking I'm a troublemaker and telling me, you're not supposed to be doing this. And, I mean, she's not going to be like, oh, I told her to do it. She does it with the other students. Oh, don't yell at her because no. With me, it's like, what is this person doing? Breaking the rules every time. But it's like, this person's like, do what I say or else. And that she already has written me up. And I found out in my memory of the conversations I've had with a past resident, she didn't like the shifts that I was on. And she tried for at least 4 weeks, if not 5 weeks, to take away my shifts. And she didn't like the shifts that I had said I was able to take in my clinic. It's none of her business what my shifts are for next term. It's her business that I show up during her shift and participate for 4 hours each time. That's where she marks. And I'm scared she may not even have marked my, I hope she marked my paper correctly. Because I don't feel like I trust this person because she's already making up stuff. I got my review. I skimmed it. She didn't really change it since the last time I signed it. I didn't really analyze it to see, is there something I really did wrong that I'm just totally clueless. Everything that was on my review was it wasn't like, oh, you're excellent. It was just really good. And great improvement in this and that and the other. So, it's like, kind of reminds me of when you write a paper or you take a test like chemistry, and sometimes after the first test, if you did kind of bad, sometimes, or maybe before you write your first paper, sometimes the teacher's like, well, I understand, well, I'll give you a letter grade, but your grade might increase at the end of the term if I see that you have great improvement. So you're always like, well, you don't want to start out doing really well. I mean, technically you do want to start doing well because that's part of, if the first test is easier. But sometimes you feel like you start at a certain place and there's no room for improvement because, like in the shifts where we are, there's a lot that they won't allow you to do. There's no rules that tell you what you're supposed to and not supposed to do. And in my mind, because of the profession that I chose, my priority is to be knowledgeable, to listen to what those people that are licensed or that are making the rules or whatever, listen to what they say and follow what they say. And do what I'm supposed to do, and then the main priority is that the patient is being cared for. And I don't have a problem. Now, I don't know about the future, but I'm thinking, I don't have a problem if I really don't know, or if I'm concerned about an ingredient in a supplement, I will not hesitate to say, I do not know if this is good for this patient. Or if the patient's blood pressure is a certain place, I don't want to hesitate to say, excuse me, doctor, this does not feel comfortable. And I know early on, sometimes taking the blood pressure, the way we do by hand, we don't have the machine, I will say, I got a weird reading, could somebody else take this? Because all it takes is just, turn the little knob too far or don't pump up. If you don't pump up, they teach us a way to take the pulse while you pump up the cuff and then stop when you don't have the pulse. Because you don't want to just go up to 160 on everyone if the person has a 180 or 220 or something. And then some people that are overweight, I use a large cuff. I swear I'm sitting there 5 minutes like, and I swear that I think I have a hole in the blood pressure cuff. So I'm not, you have to be, in the way it's like, oh, they're watching you. If every week you're like, oh, can you please recheck the blood pressure? But at the same time, like when I go into the doctor's office, they use an electric machine. And then there is one person in the room that medical assistant or whoever it is when I go to the clinic I go to, and they have the charts up on the computer, and they have the machine, and they can ask me different questions, and not like me, I feel like, oh, I'm not in a place where I'm supposed to be asking certain questions. Or someone else, the way we are, we might have 2 to 5 medical students and or doctors in the room with the patients, with a whole bunch of people talking at once. So it's just a different scenario. If I had my own clinic, I wouldn't hesitate to, if I had to think, wow, I got either really high or really low, or it's not normal for you reading on blood pressure, I wouldn't hesitate to take it again. And nowadays, I don't want to be marked down for it, but I'd rather be marked down because I repeated it. Like, sometimes the intern's like, oh, she tried it on this arm, and the lady had lymph nodes removed, so she's like, don't do it on that arm. So we did it on this arm, and then we waited 15 minutes, and then we repeated it. And then it's like the doctor's looking at me like, man, that lady doesn't know how to do blood pressure. But when you have a situation where somebody's had breast cancer and lymph node removed, some people might be very thin with very big muscles, so the cuff may give a really awkward reading because you realize that it was too small or too big. Or some people right in the middle where you're like, whoa, let me wait half an hour or 20 minutes and take your blood pressure again, and you use a different cuff, and they're both, neither of them fit properly, because, I mean, it's not a one-size-fits-all world that we live in, and it's a one-size-fits-all utensils that we're using. So, in my mind, I'd rather get written down, and to make sure that I'm not sending, I mean, I've had several patients, and there's on the physical medicine, not just that shift, where their blood pressure is extremely high and they refuse to take their meds. And they think that their T is, if they're so extreme, it's an they were sent to the emergency room, but they're like, oh, I don't want to take the meds, I just want to take the T. Maybe the T will help, but I don't want to be the person on shift who sends them home with emergency, level reading. And I'm just babbling on about, in my mind, I'm trying to make it okay that they're marking me down for certain things. What they're marking me down for is a personal problem. That is because this person has messed with me, and I refuse, if I could have any chance to not be alone in the same room as this person. They are messing with me. And like I said, I may sound hysterical and crazy, but when I think something is going on 3 times, I think maybe it's just me being cranky. But when it happens on a day-to-day basis, I think I need to stay away from this person. And the words they say, it's no business in the clinic. I feel like it's a personal problem. They're talking about my looks, or telling me that I look scary, or telling me, just different things. Talking garbage about me because I'm a parent. It's not 3 people. It's we're here paying their salary, that we don't need to hear their personal problems. If you have a personal problem, I don't know, do it sometime, deal with it sometime, not during the clinic when I'm supposed to be taking care of the patient. But basically, if I have an emergency situation or a person has a severe health concerns, including a really high blood pressure, and they've been put on medication multiple times, and they're like, no, I flushed it down the toilet, and you're like freaking out, and they have other signs and symptoms of the damage caused by their high blood pressure, I wouldn't mind having somebody check it, or me checking it again in a few minutes. But it looks bad if they walk in and be like, why are you going to take it 3 times? Or you could accidentally undo the knob too fast. And it's like, I'd rather have an accurate reading than have someone, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, it's close enough, we'll just make it up. And then the doctor comes in, what's the blood pressure? Oh, it's normal. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be on the shift. I'd rather take it again. Or if I have that much trouble, have the doctor take it and mark me down. I'd rather not have my patient, die on the way home from the clinic, or drive and get in a wreck and kill themselves and other people because they had emergent condition. And that's the same. My friend, I think her first, it's not really my friend, but her first patient was having a heart attack. And her first patient, I think, as a primary intern, I think she was alone. So I rather, if this stupid class they're going to make me pay for and take several hours of my week, if this stupid class is that much of a concern for these people, I feel like it's easier to jump through their stupid hoops and pay the money, which my computer keeps breaking. I was considering getting a really cheap computer, But now I don't. The money that I get from my financial aid doesn't even cover the expenses and daycares and food and all that stuff. So it's like I may have to just keep putting that on hold. But right now I feel like my friend reminded me of the story of Joseph in the Bible, where the guy was the little brother and his dad loved him so much he gave him the colorful robe or coat or whatever you want to call it. His brothers were jealous, and he woke up one day, had a vision that he was going to be a leader and that they were going to bow down to him, and then they really got mad. So then they went and put him in the cave, and they're like, the one guy's like, let's kill him. And then they were like, okay. Then the other guy's like, no, let's not kill him, let's put him in the cave or in the hole in the ground or the well, whatever it was. And they tore up his coat that dad got for him, and they covered it with, I don't know, some kind of blood, animal blood. And they're like, oh, daddy, the animals killed your little son. And the dad was devastated, and they went and sold the boy to traders, merchants or whatever. And then he goes, what, does he go to Egypt? Sorry, I forget right now. He goes, I think, to Egypt, and then he's always imprisoned. And he never really did anything wrong. And then people blame him for stuff, but somehow he becomes like the leader, lead prisoner in the prisoner because he's such a well-behaved person. And then that dude's wife, he was in the house with her, and she tried to like mess with him sexually, and then accused him wrongly because she was trying to jump on him and tore off his clothes and accused him wrongly. So he went back to jail. And to make a long story short, he ends up having the visions or being able to read, interpret dreams, and then they found out there was going to be a drought, a famine, and so they stored up their food like the preppers would do. Because someone else had the dream, and then the other person interpreted it, and then they acted. I feel like that's how a prepper would act. And then they were able to save up all the food and warn the city, and then they end up having the brothers, and I don't think the dad was old. The brothers came getting food, and he recognized them, but they didn't recognize him because he was all like Egyptianed out with his like makeup or hairstyle, whatever he was, whatever Egyptian style he was in. I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, everyone's going to bow to me, but this guy was wrongly punished. He didn't do anything wrong, and then to wrap it around, he kept doing the right thing and keeping in contact with God, and God kept taking care of him, even though he's accused of stuff that he didn't even do. And then he ends up actually saving his brothers and being able to see his dad again, and then he ended up owning a bunch of land or a whole nation or part of a nation, and then they could bring all the farm animals and the kids and the family. And my friend, I'm just saying this because my friend reminded me of this, and because I pray every day to ask God to forgive me of any sins I participate in, and which hopefully I don't sin, but even looking at someone in the car next to me because they cut me off and being mad in my mind, it could be sinful. So it doesn't matter how minor it is. I ask God to prevent me from sinning, and I ask Him to guide me in all of my actions. A lot of times I'll ask God, how can I help someone today? Could you please lead me to help someone today? And there's a pastor from Europe named Rachel Hickson. I have one of her CDs. I saw her in person. There's a lot of weird stories with her and roses that I had pieced together. Anyways, she had called a treasure hunt, so she would go to she was always traveling around the world, but she would go to restaurants and stuff and ask God. She needs a treasure hunt, so her thing would be to pick out someone in the restaurant or in the cafe or in the coffee shop and just go talk to them and tell them that God loves him or her, and just be there for these people. And one lady, I don't know if she was suicidal and her son was suicidal, and it was just like, because it was a complete stranger, she showed all this comfort and told her, just hang in there, Jesus loves you, and all this stuff, and this lady's life kind of changed. I mean, sometimes God could tell you to go talk to someone or give someone a flower or something. That person could have been about to shoot themselves, or you never know. So I always want to ask God to help me to help others, but also because of my situation, kind of to acknowledge that I am a single parent and that I cannot be volunteering 7 days a week like I used to be doing, but that I have to take care of our home, not taking care of our housing and our inspections and all these different rules and hoops to jump through at school that could jeopardize my housing and my career, as well as my finances, which pay the bills and the rent and gas for the car and daycare, all that stuff. I have to ask God, please help me every day. Please help me to be a good parent. And I'm trying to think about if it's where in the Bible. I'll look it up and I'll make sure that I'm really quoting the Bible. But I'll just say a lot of Christian speakers will remind us, do not put your joy in your circumstances. I know the joy of the Lord is your strength is in the Bible. The joy of your Lord is your strength. Our pastor 1 month had told us, or maybe 1 week, told us to say it every morning, like just shout it. Just don't let the worldly things bring you down. So I was saying, joy of the Lord is my strength. So when I get good grades, I was joyful. When I got an incomplete or missing scantrons, I was depressed. Or my kid went to school, I'm joyful. And my kid didn't go to school, I'm grumpy and it's ruining my day and I'm crying on the way to school. And that is my emotions, but my true joy, I need to get past. People are 1 minute you're crying and then the next day I see you're perfectly fine. And then you're dressed up and got ironed out your clothes and wash your car or whatever. But I'm those circumstances, I did cry about it. I did get frustrated about. But then I reminded myself, the joy of the Lord is my strength. So the joy, and don't let my circumstances dictate my joy. I need to be joyful. I know some people were talking about, there's that crazy pastor or something that just got in a wreck and they're smiling. I say, the joy of the Lord. It's they kind of, it was a story one of the pastors had said, you might kind of want to be joyful every day, and I need to get better at that. I used to have some mean, abusive people tell me that I was smiling too much, and that, what are we, crazy, and all this stuff. And that people that mentally abuse you, that was my ex-husband. People, anyone out there, doesn't matter if you're male or female, adult or child, if you have someone abusive, that can really mess with you, even a decade later. And it can mess with other family members, kids or adults. It can mess with anyone who's around, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, or financial abuse, anything. It can really mess with everyone around. That's part of the reason I left my kid's dad, because the kids were picking up on everything and copying the behaviors. So, anyways, it turned into this stupid class that they're making me take, and I'm just gonna go. I could try to fight it and have them come in a big meeting. I'm gonna do everything I can